For the last few years on this show, we have been covering what I would call the pandemic of pointless tipping. Now, it used to be that tipping was expected only if you were at a sit-down restaurant or ordering a pizza for delivery. It's a simple time back then. Everybody knew the rules and expectations. You were asked to leave a tip only in very limited and specific circumstances, which meant that you could tip generously when those occasions arose. It was a win-win. The waiters and pizza delivery guys, they made out pretty well, and you had the opportunity to feel magnanimous. I used to tip upwards of 25%, even more for most tipping situations. I was essentially a philanthropist back in those days. But then the dam started to crack a little bit, and suddenly places like coffee shops were putting out tip jars. And, why do I need to tip someone for pouring me a coffee? I could do that by myself. I'm more than happy to. Let me behind the counter. I'll handle it. Nobody ever bothered to justify the coffee shop tip jar, and we didn't have time to stop and think about it because next thing you know, sit-down restaurants started offering to-go options, but they still wanted tips even for that. We used to tip the waiter for serving the food. Now we're being asked to tip the guy who simply hands a bag of food across the counter, and we got to tip the same for that, we're told. Tipping had already gotten out of hand, and we hadn't seen the worst of it yet because one day, seemingly out of nowhere, all at once, every store in America started using touchscreen tablets at checkout, which makes it even easier to add a tipping option. And this was the moment when the dam finally gave way. The simple, innocent days of tipping only on pizza night or date night were gone, and now everybody wants a tip. Every cashier at every store suddenly turns into a panhandler. Doesn't matter if you're at a bakery or a coffee shop or a fast food place or an airport or a supermarket or a gas station, a hardware store. They all want tips. They've all decided that inflation hasn't made life expensive enough as it is, apparently. And even as these industries intentionally make their already too expensive goods and services even more expensive, the quality of the goods and services declined. The website retailcustomerexperience.com reported last year on a poll of over 96,000 consumers, which found that the quality of customer service has dipped dramatically. So if you've noticed a significant increase in the number of customer service workers who are totally disinterested and generally incompetent and often openly angry at you for walking into their establishment to begin with, that's not your imagination. Like, we've all noticed the same thing. And yet, at this precise moment, when service has never been worse, we're being asked to pay more than we ever have for it. But at least if you're tipping a, sullen and lazy customer service employee, you're still tipping an actual employee. You're tipping someone. You're tipping a human being. Increasingly, even that is starting to change. The Wall Street Journal reports this week, quote, tipping at self-checkout has customers crying emotional blackmail. Zero interaction with employees during a transaction no longer guarantees freedom from the moral quandary of how much to tip. Prompts to leave 20% at self-checkout machines at airports, stadiums, cookie shops, cafes across the country are rankling consumers already inundated by the proliferation of tip screens. Business owners say the automated queues can significantly increase gratuities and boost staff pay. But the unmanned prompts are leading more customers to question what exactly the tips are for. They're cutting labor costs by doing self-checkout, but what's the point of asking for a tip? And where is it going? Says Ishita Jamar, a senior at American University in Washington, D.C., who has noticed more self-serve tip queues at restaurants she frequents. Tipping researchers, that's a job apparently, tipping researchers, and labor advocates say that so-called tip creep is a way for employers to put the onus for employee pay onto consumers rather than raising wages themselves. Companies say that tips are an optional thanks for a job well done. Job well done? Well, who did the job at a self-checkout machine? Me? If anyone should be tipped after I use self-checkout, it should be me. And I really should get a tip because I'm very efficient on the self-checkout, okay? Unlike a lot of people, and they're in front of you at self-checkout, you know that's going to be a problem because you're going to be there. They bag each thing slowly and individually and all that. I speed through that thing. It's one of my best skills. And I've already taken on the role of the employee when I'm at the self-checkout machine. I am scanning and bagging my own items. So the store should be tipping me for my labor, not the other way around. President Trump recently issued a warning from his Mar-a-Lago home, quote, if I could do a Trump impression here, I would do it, but I can't. So, our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be our greatest defeat, frankly, in 200 years. There are three reasons the central banks are dumping the U.S. dollar: inflation, deficit spending, and our insurmountable national debt. The fact is, there is one asset that has withstood famine, wars, political and economic upheaval, dating all the way back to biblical times, and that is gold. I've bought gold from Birch Gold in preparation for uncertain economic times, and you can trust them too. You can now own gold in a tax-sheltered account, retirement account with the help of Birch Gold. That's right, Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. The best part is you don't pay a penny out of pocket. When currencies fail, gold is a safe haven. How much more time does the dollar have? You can protect your savings with gold. Birch Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. They have thousands of happy customers. I'm one of them. If you want to be one of them, you can text Walsh to 989898 to get your free info kit on gold. Again, text Walsh to 989898 today. Self-checkout has always been kind of a time of internal emotional conflict for me because on the one hand, I appreciate how self-checkout caters to my antisocial tendencies. So I like that. I don't have to talk to anybody. That's great. On the other hand, I think it's certainly a generally unhealthy thing for society to replace human jobs with machines. I don't think that's a good trend. Okay, it doesn't go anywhere good. And besides, I sort of resent being asked to do the job of an employee without being paid for it. I think as soon as we get to the point where Walmart expects the customers to come in at 3 a.m. to unload the trucks and stock the shelves and mop the floors, and they'll still ask us to leave a tip at the end of it. And most people will. See, that's the real story here. You know, it's clear that the tipping virus, it's spreading uncontrollably. We all know that now. As with most things in our culture, the solution is to get back to the basics, to return to tradition. The only people who should be asking for a tip are waiters and fast food delivery people. Even though the food delivery apps already charge service fees and delivery fees and delivery service fees and service delivery fees, and then they ask for a tip on top of all that. So you're paying $87 for a hamburger before you add the tip. That's kind of a separate issue. Waiters and delivery people, still, they can ask for tips. A few other service jobs that have been grandfathered in, valets, coat checks, etc. Everyone else can make do with the wage that they're already being paid. You're already getting paid to do your job. That's why if you're at the checkout, your paycheck is for this right here, this interaction where I'm giving you something, you're scanning it, you're taking the card. Like that's what that's for. That's what your paycheck is for. It's for that. And that's how it used to be, and it's how it should be again. We can get back there, but it's up to the customers to make that happen. The customers have to say no. See, this is the other element in the perfect storm that has led to this tipping pandemic. Most people in our culture, they don't know how to say no. They were never told no as kids. They never tell their own kids no. They never tell anyone no. They tolerate everything, they accept everything, and they leave a tip whenever the prompt comes up because they don't want to say no in that context either. We have to recapture the long-lost art of saying no. And as much as I complain about the proliferation of tipping, I'm really complaining on behalf of all of those people who are suckered into it, because it's not actually a problem for me personally. I have no trouble saying no. I will hit the no tip option on the checkout prompt without feeling the slightest tinge of guilt. Okay, even if it's one of those things where they really ramp up the emotional blackmail, but by asking you, sometimes if you're in maybe say a drive-through line, and they'll say, "Oh, did you want to add the tip here?" Like, probably 90% of people, especially then, will say, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll do." I have no problem saying, "Oh no, I don't. Thank you for the opportunity. I don't. I'll just pay. I'll pay the actual amount that's on the receipt, and that's it. Thank you so much for the opportunity to pay more, but I'd rather pay less. Actually, I'm not stealing the goods that I purchased. I've already paid for them. I don't feel morally compelled to voluntarily pay more than what they cost." Because that's what the tip prompt is really asking. Here's your total. Would you like to make it more expensive? No, I would not like that. No, thank you. That's all. That's all we need to say. And saying no to the tip prompts is just the start. It's good practice for all the other no's we should be saying. Emotional blackmail is a common tactic in our society, and it's used to advance all sorts of insidious agendas. The over-tipping agenda is not the most insidious, but it's not the least either. And the solution is the same, either way. Just say no. And to those asking for undeserved tips, we can also say, you're canceled. And that'll do it for the show. This portion of the show is move over to Members Block. You become a member today by using code Walsh at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans. Hope to see you there. If not, talk to you tomorrow. Godspeed.